Hello guys, it's been a while since I've done a question of the week, a rather busy time in real life with exams and such, but here we are back again. This question of the week is maybe not to create some debate, but rather give attention to a topic. At Gaming WinterFest, we saw the situation that number 1 and number 2 seed from the time attack seeding ended up facing each other in the semi-final instead of facing against each other in the final. The same thing was the case for the TrackMania World Championship. And yeah, the foundation for me for having a time attack seeding in the first place is so you can sort of see who is the strongest players and then separate them in different brackets. So if they win all of the matches, then they will face off against each other in the winner bracket final, because then there are just four people left, and then you obviously will have, in theory, the four best players. But at the moment, that's not the case, because at Gaming WinterFest, Twin won the time attack seeding, Kappa came number 2. Both of them won their quarterfinals, but then they end up facing each other in the semi-final. Ideally, they will still be separated in the semi-final, and then if they win that semi-final, then they meet in the final. At least this time, people reacted to it somewhat, because I think it was kind of clear that this event you had two favorites, and then maybe it became more obvious to the general public that there are some problems with the system and they should be fixed. But this was also the case at the World Championship, which is a much bigger event, much more important event, and had more eyes. But I think maybe this was harder to like look at it, because you have the season 3, and then you have the time attack seeding, and then you mix those points together and rankings together, and then you ended up with seedings. Here we had Carl Jr. winning the seeding, I believe, and then Pack being number 2 in the seedings. If you remember, both of them won their quarterfinal, but then they faced off against each other in the winner bracket semi-final. A match that number 2 from the match with the Twin and Kappa. Kappa became number 2 that match, but they ended up winning that match. But still, that's not the point here. The point is that number 1 and number 2 seed from the time attack seeding ended up once again facing in the winner bracket semi-final instead of ideally in the winner bracket final. Some people say that it was a bug at the Gaming WinterFest, that this has to be some sort of mistake here. Maybe they just used some wrong settings for this event. But if you look at the link they use on the webpage, sort of the template for every event, when it's 16 people, you can see that the seedings are, if everyone in the top 8 goes to top 2, and let's say that number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 win their quarterfinals, and then number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8 finish second in their match, the semifinals will look like this. Semifinal 1 will have seed number 1, seed number 2, seed number 5, and seed number 6. Semifinal 2 will have seed number 3, seed number 4, seed number 7, and seed number 8. If you can pick, let's say that I can pick myself, I'm a player, what seeding do I want in the time attack seeding now? Do I want to become number 1? Or do I want to become number 3? For me, the choice is rather easy. The semi-final 2 is much easier on paper, let's just make that clear. On paper it's much easier, because now you face off against worse opponent. Seed number 4, seed number 7, and seed number 8, instead of seed number 2, 5, and 6. Ideally, the way it will look is that semifinal 1 is seed number 1, seed number 4, seed number 5, and seed number 8. Semifinal 2 will then have the rest of the people, seed number 2, seed number 3, seed number 5, and seed number 6 and seed number 7. So yeah, at the moment there are problems with the system, and I spoke to John at the event at the Gaming WinterFest. He said he had no problem with changing it if the TrackMania community wants it, and if they think that's the fair one, then he would fix it. I think it's obvious that you should fix it, because now you, instead of trying to try the fastest, maybe try to calculate into getting number 3 in the time attack seeding, or maybe even lose your match in the quarterfinals to then end up in an easier bracket. So this is this is something I looked at the events and saw some problems with. I got all the links from the Draconia because they have different brackets depending on how many players, from 8 players to 64 players. So I thought it was funny to look at the other brackets. Maybe there are some problems there. I saw at the smallest one, 8-man bracket. I don't think ever used that in TrackMania, at least at what to say, bigger LAN events. But yeah, the seeding here was also wrong in my eyes, at least, because semifinal 1 we had seed number 3, or seed number 1, 3, 5, and 7. Semifinal 2, seed 2, 4, 6, and 8. Again, I would, if I can pick between being number 1 or number 2 now, I pick number 2. You end up with a higher score of seedings in your semifinal 2 instead of the semifinal 1. Again, the match here should be semifinal 1, seed number 1, 4, 5, and 8. I think that's pretty easy and pretty standard for every sport, and it should be adapted here as well. I know that many people are planning to attend to the Gamers Assembly. They have 64 slots open, so then they will use a 64-man bracket. And here I looked at it briefly because there are so many numbers, so many possible options here. But I just did the easiest one to test if the bracket system is working. Just test what happens if number 1 win all of his matches, and what happens if number 2 seed from the time tag seeding win all of his matches. In the 64-man bracket, then they face off against each other in the winner bracket final. The same thing if number 4 from the time tag seeding wins all of his matches, he will face off against number 1 in the semifinal, and then if number 3 wins all of his matches, he faces off against number 2 in his semifinal. So in this case, you actually want to be number 1 in the seedings, because then you can have easier opponents in a semifinal, and ideally a easier way to the final. I hope I made my point clear here. If you didn't catch what I mean here, the link for all the brackets will be in the description, and if there are problems, just ask me, I'll explain it to you. And as I said in the start, I don't think this is a topic for debate, really. I just think it's a little mistake here done by the system or the coding, or how they do it. It's just a mistake that is easy fixable and should be already fixed for the La Catalan, which has 16 slots and is actually Draconia's event. So hopefully they will have it fixed by then, and that can be the first event where we see the right way of having a 16-man bracket. Let me know what you think, both on Twitter and on YouTube. Bye bye.